Let's start with Engineer Mele Kyari, because what has happened at NNPC Limited is that an era ends, a new one begins. I know that before now, there were persons who were saying, oh, Mele Kyari should be removed. Mele Kyari is the problem with the oil and gas industry in Nigeria. And I consistently argued that Engineer Mele Kyari is not your problem. There are more fundamental problems in that sector of the economy that will have to be addressed. And it's not about an individual. Now, let me dissect that before I go to the latest development. Now, Engineer Mele Kyari attained the age of 60 years in January 2025. Having served, for over 3 decades in the NNPC, it was only logical that, going by the civil service rules, after attaining the age of 60 years, he will have to yield the way for other people to take over. So in that regard, what President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has done is just to say, okay, this man attained the age of 60 years in January. This is March. We have entered April. Let him step aside. But the thing we'll call on President Tinubu to do is about consistency in terms of how this rule is also applied, which is just a basic constitutional civil service rule, public service rule, in Nigeria. That's number one. Number two, there are persons who before now have been calling for removal of Mele Kyari. Mele Kyari is a problem. Well, the question that those persons will have to ask themselves will be, okay, now that Mele Kyari has retired or has been asked to go on retirement, would that solve the problems in the oil and gas industry, which is a very strategic industry for Nigeria? I think we should thank Mele Kyari for his service to Nigeria, for the efforts that he has made, and his efforts have been well documented in a book titled Mele Kyari, Leading Through Chaos, 343 pages, 2023, by Agwabu and Ojiaburo. I think that's the name of the lady who co-authored that book. And in that book, which I recommend for general reading, which describes Mele Kyari's legacy as the head of the Oil and Gas Corporation. It's about what he did with the Kolmani, I think they call it Kolmani River 2 project, looking for exploration in the Benue Trough, Upper Benue Trough. What he did, trying to stabilize that sector. For the first time in over 30 years, it was under Mele Kyari that Nigeria had a report in terms of profits and accountability. There's something to be said for that. It was under him that the NNPC transitioned from NNPC to NNPC Limited, and it was part of his responsibility to manage that transition. Number 5 is the fact that under Engineer Mele Kyari, there was a lot of reorganization, repositioning, audited accounts published under his watch. So I do not agree with people who say, oh, Mele Kyari has gone and is a problem. It's not the problem. He works with a team, a management team who are still there and who are part of that transition. But having attained the age of 60 years, we can only thank him for his services, because nobody can serve forever. First term, second term, okay. Allow other people to take over and work. So we congratulate Engineer Mele Kyari in the NNPC Limited. So I'm not one of those people who come here and say Mele Kyari was a problem. It was not a problem. He made his contributions, and those contributions should be acknowledged. Now, what President Tinubu has done, I think, is a welcome development. After Mele Kyari, what President Tinubu has now done is to further reposition the NNPC Limited. In terms of the fact that, yes, Mele Kyari may have overseen the transition, now there are other tasks. And if you look at the list of the persons that President Tinubu has now appointed, you will see that President Tinubu has decided that, look, let the technocrats, people who have been in this industry, out of NNPC-L, Mele Kyari came from within the system. Now let us bring people who have spent their entire lives in this environment. Ojulari, Bayo Ojulari, is the man now who is going to lead the team. Now, he is a product, I think, of Shell, right? And he has been in that industry for the entire part of his career. He's even leading Renaissance Energy. So he knows what is going on in that industry or what energy security means. Take Kida, Musa Kida. Musa Kida is a product of Total. So he's also an insider. He has been there. Take David Ige. David Ige has a PhD Cantab. He has a first class in mechanical engineering from the University of Lagos. These are very knowledgeable people. Take Usman Bello. I think Usman Bello is also from the Total background. Take, who else is there? Omotowa, I think that's his name. He's also an insider from Shell. So these are very knowledgeable people who have their jobs cut out for them. However, they should be allowed to do the job, to reposition NNPC-L. And allowing them to do the job must mean that President Tinubu, who, as I have said, has wisely identified these technocrats, including Austin Avuru. Austin Avuru, yes, a geologist, a semiologist, or whatever they call them, from Shell, from NNPC. He was even the man that set up Seplat, Austin Avuru. Yeah, he used to write articles for me when I was chairman editorial board of The Guardian, because he could also interrelate with social theory. Now, these people should be allowed by President Tinubu to do their job. And allowing them to do their job means doing everything possible to avoid the politicization of their work. These are technocrats. The kind of experience that technocrats have in this country is that when they take public offices, the politicians don't allow them to work. President Tinubu, having identified these talents within the industry out of the NNPC structure, should also support them to be able to do the job. He must give the new board a free hand. He must prevent politics. And what do we need to see? We need to see the NNPC-L repositioned. We need to see a lot in terms of productivity. We need to see issues about crude oil theft addressed. We need to see issues about increased oil productivity, which was something that began under Engineer Mele Kyari. We also need to see improvements in that regard. As for Engineer Mele Kyari, may he enjoy his retirement. I think 6 years, 2019 to 2025, he has had a good run, and I would like to congratulate him.